podcast, we talk to Rahul Gupta to know more about ValuAble, claiming to be country's first purpose-led venture debt fund. Gupta opens up on their strategy, the fundraising traction, and a unique go-to-market strategy in partnership with the bank. Being severely sighted and partially auditory impaired since birth, Gupta did break several myths of can't do and rose up the corporate ladder to deliver several industry first initiatives largely in alignment with sustainability. In a very firm statement, he reaffirms that we can't let people use disability as an excuse to justify mediocrity. Watch, listen to this meaningful podcast to get an insight about what makes these venture debt fund, who are the people behind it, what do they think, what are they made of, what are their observations of startup ecosystem, and so on. I want to sort of begin by asking you about valuables. Tell me a little about that. We did have Anicut Capital some time back on this podcast talking about their venture debt strategy investment thesis. I want to understand more about you. What I gather is that it's a fresh fund. Is the fundraising already completed, or are you still on your outing and meeting up with LPs and convincing them? Yes, Rahul.
First of all, Shija, thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be a part of your phenomenal podcast. It was extremely exciting for me to be a part of the Rising Equality Summit, to be talking on women equality and how we see them coming together and having somebody from an opposite gender. It's itself an expression of equality. And thank you so much for thinking of the world on diversity balance. ValuAble, as we say, is an ideology. ValuAble stands on three pillars: create value, deliver via values, and belief in ability. We all live in the capitalist world, so it's important to focus on creating value. The first step is a venture debt fund. It's a $100 million fund. It's a semi-registered category 2. We just use dollars for ease, but it's a 850 crore rupee denominated 600 plus 250 green shoe. Where are we in our journey? Yes, we continue to be in our fundraise mode. Our struggles are no different from any first-time fund. What people seem to be liking is a theme and thesis. Of course, what they keep demanding is a track, and hopefully we'll soon be showcasing that to the market and participants. As ValuAble, we intend to invest into Series A plus companies, the companies that have seen validation from VCs. What we love are cash flows. We are very traditional underwriters to that extent. We do not believe in underwriting just valuations because our friends in the equity market and equity ecosystem are better equipped to do that. We call ourselves India's first UNSDG aligned venture debt fund. So there are certain sectors that we intend to stay away from: gambling, alcohol, tobacco, similar other sectors. What's non-negotiable for us is scale, return, and sustenance. Once a company passes these through parameters, we then look for companies in three cohorts: climate, inclusion, and Bharat. Climate is anything and everything that's turning the planet blue or green or making this planet a better place to live. Inclusion are businesses led by their diversity groups or businesses empowering diversity groups. To give an example, diversity encompasses gender, sexuality, age, language, ethnicity, medical abilities, marginalized and others. As much as we are excited about Shrija building a phenomenal scalable return debt platform, we'll be equally excited if your life partner, because we were just talking about it, if Nitin was building a business which in turn is empowering one of the diversity groups. Again, without compromising on SRS, we call it SRS like the surround system, scale, return, sustenance. You've got to keep, these words need to keep echoing around you like a surround sound. Then we are equally excited about those businesses. The third is Bharat. We believe that the next $1 trillion opportunity is soon going to unearth from tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. So all those opportunities coming from that cohort, irrespective of where the business is headquartered, is again that we find our excitement. Typically, from a $100 million fund, we will be underwriting checks between 2 million to 4 million, estimating to underwrite approximately 55 unique transactions over a period of 3 years. It's a 7-year fund, 3-year commitment period. We are targeting healthy blended returns, which will be aligned to market. But I think what's going to create a niche for us is we are getting into an exclusive partnership. The leading Indian private sector bank, and the more will be the more is to be unveiled in the near future, where we believe as debt funds we would like to play a pivotal role in getting these companies ready for bank finance and get banks come early on their cap table. That's going to create a differentiation for us, for the founders, for equity investors, and the entire startup ecosystem.
Thanks for that, Rahul. Rahul, tell me one thing. The ESG focus that you have, that you said, Shrija, the climate focus has to be there, the inclusivity focus has to be, the sustenance focus has to be there. And then you have this entire sort of thesis that a lot of wealth creation will happen from Bharat. I also see a lot of greenwashing happening. There was greenwashing on part of companies, but I also see greenwashing now happening on parts of funds, like the way you have AI washing happening in terms of companies. Because anything which is green or ESG is music to the ears of the LPs, right? Because there is allocation now for this kind of thesis and strategy. In your case, perhaps the diversity quotient becomes so much more authentic, just given perhaps your own journey and given what you have gone through. So, here one can understand that here is a fund which is authentic and really wants to create a change. But do you think that the entire narrative building about ESG is also a lot of greenwashing happening in part of fund managers? Because ultimately you want to raise money, right?
It might be a little controversial, but if you ask me, even greenwashing is good. Why? At least people are waking up to this. People are realizing that they need to do this. Now, if you think of it, and this may sound very philosophical, but your actions translate into your habits, which become your behavior. These behaviors turn into culture, and these culture translate into societies. Now, maybe it's you are forcing yourself to behave in a particular way, but as coming generations are going to see you observe, for them these are natural ecosystems. Now, anyways, given we are in the capital world, we live in era of strong governance and compliance. There are people who are smart enough, right? Now, given the first stone is already set in, which perhaps should have taken the longest time, given that is there, now the next step is true audit and true compliance. See, you can only fake the market to a particular time. You can only greenwash to a particular stage. When it comes to start delivering, and for how long can you fake? You can only fake a smile till a point, right? At some point, you will have to drop the job. It's the same thing. The market is waiting, the market is watching, and there are now enough and more examples that the good work is being recognized. Interestingly, I was at one of the summits yesterday, and I was not too surprised when another fund certainly is talking about Bharat. I was in fact extremely happy. We said, wow, there are people who are at least now getting to talk about this.
There's a validation. There's validation building in.
And we call it the largest pools of capital, we call it responsible capital, which is sovereign endowments and pension. They understand, acknowledge, and see parallel ecosystems are building up, right? There are audit agencies coming up. There are consulting agencies coming up. So the whole governance framework today is there, and we saw this happening across the human society and human evolution, where who will understand this subject better than you. Women, probably 65 years back, when the whole women advocacy kicked off, maybe it was optics.
Yeah.
Today, one of the leading Indian industrialists came and voiced, are we, women-centric products, are you pricing it higher? And if you are, why are you doing that? I mean, if you believe in equity, if you believe in equality, why are you putting a premium to pink? Please don't do that.
Now, the pink tax. Yeah.
But it's interesting, right? At least you see pink around you.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are now naturally following the trend. So greenwashing isn't bad. No, greenwashing is phenomenal. Continued greenwashing, can it happen? No, it cannot happen. The way the market is constructed, the way the market is structured, and we are inert optimists. So we say, चलो कोई बात नहीं, किसी भी तरीके से शुरू तो कर रहे हैं. शुरू करो, and fakeness cannot hold. It will drop.
Interesting take, and I think I agree that beyond a point you can't fake it, and I think fakeness only up to a point. I mean, after I mean, it will start unraveling for itself. Things will start unravel and it will be seen. Tell me one thing, Rahul, and I want to understand this from you. Where are you on your fundraising journey? Because you said it's a rupee denominated fund. How is the reaction, or what is the kind of feedback you're getting from your LPs? I'm understanding these are more domestic investors. Are these family offices, or are you also going the retail route of raising retail commitment of say 1 crore each or things like that? And by how soon do you think that you could be able to do the first close or something like that?
Very interesting, Shrija. It's been some time that we've been out there in the market, and I know people are now waiting to hear when will we start underwriting transactions, when will we start concluding it. In fact, I'm learning a lot of things in this journey. Honestly, when I used to start, because we call ourselves India's first purpose-led fund at a holistic level, it's a deep learning for me when earlier when I used to start my deck or my presentations, I used to talk about ideology first. And I suddenly realized that people are not catching it. So now my whole presentation shifted. I said, okay, अगर बाजार आपको X कमा के देता है, how will I create a delta for you? How it is going to create a holistic ecosystem for the market? The minute I get their attention, depending on the mood, then I move to the next stage because that's okay. I mean, we may not have to push the ideology. Let it happen naturally. Where are we? I think we took a little longer because we were trying to stitch a partnership with the leading institution. I don't think being a first-time fund, we need to earn our credibility. We didn't find it optimal to immediately go and reach out to the retail investors before we hit the first close.
Okay.
So we slightly went a little unconventional route. We are trying to tap into distribution capital. Hopefully, very soon I'll come up to you again to share some of those names. But we are extremely happy that there are people who are willing to put their confidence in us. It's been a deep learning experience, and I honestly only feel in gratitude that what we are trying to do took time. Had we not, probably we would have got complacent. We would have again got into the same rush. I think it just got the whole thesis much better. How soon? I think I've never given out a timeline. Probably, if all goes well, within the 4 weeks now, you should see us out announcing the first deal.
Congratulations, Rahul. Congratulations are well in order there, looks like.
Let's see. Before again, I think it's a long journey, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember one of the very accomplished senior senior VC, who also happens to be a Stefanian senior, once told me that it's a never-ending trip, and you are here for a very long time. And I think many more industry veterans have only been telling us this. We are in no rush. We'll never get into rush because we'll be working with people money. It's an extremely delicate job. You are not just taking the accountability of capital, but at one end we're putting a gun on our head to say we are also leading an ideology. So maintaining a balance around all this, I think, will only get tested over 5 to 7 years period. But yes, we see that people are opening up. People like what we are talking. But our challenge as a first time fund, like पहली नौकरी, पहला धंधा, पहला हर चीज, वो जो समय लगता है वो लग रहा है, वो लगना चाहिए और अच्छा है लग रहा है. But yeah, I mean, we'll go through that.
Rahul, tell me one thing. What is really behind the mushrooming of venture debt funds? I remember being a close observer of this space. There was Innovent Capital, which sort of was being talked about in the initial stages of venture debt. Then there was this entire trifecta capital, which sort of came in. Now, then there's the likes of Anikit. Then we also have you. And now I'm in fact seeing the deepening of the market where sector specialists or theme focused venture debt funds coming. On the equity side, one really has seen very thematic funds, very specialist funds. So, what really are the 2 or 3 factors which have actually factored into the acceptance of venture debt fund as a strategy? What really has changed for venture debt suddenly? Because that we are seeing the mushrooming of funds happening in this space.
Very interesting and powerful question. And thanks. I mean, all the three names that you took, we're extremely fortunate to have friends in each of them. I still lean on them for, if I need some clarity. And it's just an expression how evolved some of these professionals are, who see that a new player entering into the market is only going to strengthen the whole ecosystem. So it's all the evolvement of the market. In fact, if you look at it, on the equity side, you
Mhm.
have your venture equity funds are a couple of hundreds. If you look at the debt space, we are still, you know, okay, the numbers could be all over, but let's say early tens, or early teens. We are not even 20 plus in total, right? And subtract anything and everything. Now, what got this a couple of things. One, founders, while they are building optimal capital base, it's a good idea for them to have a right balance between. In fact, market over the last 2 years saw very interesting to it, where some of the equity funds got a little irked off with some of the new behaviors that were evolving in the market. Some of the debt funds started only and only underwriting valuation. Now, equity funds said, well, if you want to underwrite valuation, what are we doing? And debt funds, because debt traditionally should be at the back of cash flows. Now, again, there could be different arguments around this. Do companies burn cash? Now, we are not doing traditional businesses. Here, your debt to equity is not going to be 70-30 or 80-20. Equity is the biggest underlying security that you see. The quality of the institutional capital is the best validation that you see. Debt is a built up, and debt has to naturally build up. In fact, we wrote some very interesting article. We sort of curated or equated this to the symphony for another day. But the idea is equity and debt, they need to be extremely complementary. Debt will gradually keep building up. And that's where we see our partnership with the bank is going to create a natural readiness for these companies. Now, what is debt doing for these startups? Couple of things. One, debt brings financial discipline. Yes, I continue to have one complaint from the founder community, and no offense to anybody. You generally see founders sitting in the first equity meeting, and you do not see them come in the first debt calculation because they still think debt is a commodity. They do not, not for the majority, but for few. And I know my friends love me, and it's important for all of us to be doing the right things for the ecosystem. We believe that founders need to put their right attention to this asset class as well, because it's a friend which gets them ready from a financial discipline reporting perspective, get them ready for bank. See, banks today, we love, I've been a banker all my life. We love our equity.
Yeah.
But equity speaks one language and debt speaks the other language. You know, I don't know if it's the right equation here to say, but let's say men and women. Can you imagine the world without shivers? You need both, right? Now we are not saying who's who. Let's not open that. But you are saying equity speaks one language, that speaks the other language. Banks, because banks are in the lending business, banks are slightly more aligned to the symphony or the notes that are coming from the debt table. Now, if you're able to collectively get these companies ready on that journey, I think we are all doing, collectively, we'll be doing a phenomenal job. The market has enough and more depth. The kind of initiatives Government of India has taken to strengthen the fund of fund ecosystem, the right alignments that are coming, this is the market where startups are going to build up. We are going to see many successful growth stories. Our equity friends are giving a lot of time sitting in the boardrooms with the founders, helping them shape up their business, get them better, bring them global intelligence. The debt players parallelly are trying to bring that right capital mix so that these companies are eventually getting ready. We are not reflecting again after some time. So market is expected to grow almost 10x over the next 6 years. So you put a compounding effect. You were talking about 20% plus kind of a CAGR here, and extremely optimistic. We are seeing more and more new funds coming in. We recently saw four more funds entering the market. Some of them have already announced the first fund, and while we have taken a theme alongside, as I said, we decided to put a gun on our head because we love that subject. Our passion eventually gets driven from that, but we understand investing as a skill. So we tried blending the two together. But even if you don't have themes, I think the market is so deep and still needs so much more capital. We'll see many more funds come up.
That's well put, Rahul. Understood some of the motivations and how the market is changing. So basically, it's a build up in terms of systems and processes and compliance from a founder's perspective, and they need to have reverence and respect for this capital instrument also. It's a great expression that you had, that the founders turn up and show up for the equity meeting, but they don't necessarily show up for the first debt meeting because, like you said, they treat this as a commodity. I wanted to also understand from you, Rahul, one key thing: this partnership with the bank that you sort of outlined. What is this strategy? Is it new or intrinsic to only valuable? Because I have not heard other venture debt funds talk about this partnership with the bank philosophy. What exactly is it?
It's going to be the first of its kind partnership in the market. We have still not gone public, so I'll not be able to diverge much. But the whole idea is that the bank and a fund come together, keeping respective guardrails under control, independent ICs under function, lay out the right contours. Of course, different friends in the market have been doing it under 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 a slightly different model, which is a syndication model. We are doing a unique attempt to collaborate with this very exciting bank, extremely powerful in terms of their passion for the whole startup ecosystem. And the whole idea is that we'll come in along with the bank. As this company will keep getting better, we'll gradually start withdrawing or start coming down, and the bank will naturally keep coming up. So there's enough and more incentive for the founder. Of course, the banks are the custodian of very different kind of money, and the idea is get the company ready for bank money. It is a very different kind of capital. It's a very different kind of risk category. And banks, of course, bring very different capabilities on the table. The kind of transaction banking capabilities, efficiencies the bank bring it's going to be a phenomenal term. Yes, it took us long, but not for any other reason. But you need to be extremely conscious of the regulatory frameworks you're operating in, how you're going to blend the right product. You should not be seen stepping on the wrong side at any given point. So these are delicate instruments. You got to play it well, and we see this is going to add a substantial value for
Will
founders.
this be like a loan? What will the product be? What will be the nature of the capital
Yeah,
gift?
as a venture debt, we can only do we'll only be subscribing to non-convertible debentures, NCD, and that's the traditional product that the market has been doing. Banks are typically comfortable bank permitted financing, and as I said, it will all be within the guardrails and the frameworks of the banking ecosystem. Um, Now, with that, there, eventually, what you are saying, promoter perform better,
Hmm.
and the bank will also keep gaining confidence and keep going up the ladder, and we will move you from high cost money to low cost capital. But don't shy away, don't don't shy away from of putting the right price for the right product. And I think we are very comfortable not to dwell or engage with people who cannot appreciate partnership. We see these as long-term partnership. We would want to rub shoulders with them. We would want to not just partner with them on their bank journey, but eventually work very closely with them with their ESG journey. Some of the companies that we are engaged with are extremely passionate about what they're doing. We are extremely passionate about what they're doing. We don't want to see this association nothing less than what they have with their equity funds, with their equity friends. Some of the funds you talked about, the debt players, they of course enjoy immense respect with the founders. We would want to play in that niche. We would want our founders to see us as long-term players and not as transactors.
Thanks for that, Rahul. Definitely, it's sort of, I think what I'm understanding from all these sound bites is that the market is definitely getting more and more sophisticated, especially on the venture debt side. Also, there are new themes, new strategies, and there's one of the kind partnership with the bank that you talked about. It'll be interesting to see sort of how that plays out while you're not divulging a lot of details because you're sort of guarded because of the RBI sort of regulations one can understand. But when it happens, I think it'd be great to sort of know more about it. Rahul, we spent so much time talking about valuable, and you sort of began with saying that Shrija is an ideology and what we stand for. You spoke about investment strategy, thesis, on your fundraising journey, where you are, your relationship with LPs, your message to the founders, your partnership with the bank. I want to talk a little about yourself also, because ultimately you are the key man in this fund, right? I mean, what is a fund? a fund is an extension of people or the GPs who are running it. Because ultimately, private equity or private markets are a very, very close relationship and trust driven businesses between the LPs and the GPs. In fact, at one point of time, it was really called the business of the LPs, by the LPs, and for the LPs. Very, very close, guarded room, the conversations used to be. Now with some of the bit of media coverage, I think some of the news and funding announcements are still being known to people. Otherwise, it was always a very, very secretly guarded industry. I want to understand from you, Rahul, your own journey. And if one looks at your LinkedIn, you really, really have uh, used what could be construed as a weakness, as a strength, as to what you are. I mean, like, okay, there is an issue with blindness and not being able to see clearly. But I want to understand from you that now that you are on this entrepreneurial journey, what has been the good, bad, and the ugly in terms of, had you faced some biases? Have people judged you for this? Or do you think that there is some respect and some reverence to this also? Give me the true, what is the true picture out there? Yeah, Rahul.
So Shrija, at the outset, I must say it's a collective vision between Siba and I. And I must talk a bit about Siba before I jump into what I'm doing. So Siba Panda holds around 22 years of overall experience, a chartered accountant, a company secretary, did his executive MBA from UCLA. He's also a law graduate. Phenomenal career, worked across telecom, consulting, publishing, trading. Was also one of the key members of another leading venture debt fund today.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I can keep going and talking about the kind of work he has done and the phenomenal stuff that he has outperformed. But more important is, which is a very less known fact of him, he hails from a very small town in Odisha, a place called Behrampur, where his father used to be a chart seller. Now, what got us connected is our whole commitment to purpose. I think what people are seeing in the front, and that's of course true, that we are on the path, and you very rightly said, we are accountable, responsible to our LPs. We work for them, we work with them, we work by them. At the same time, what ties both Siba and I together is our commitment to purpose. And very soon you will see something more unfolding within this partnership and this framework. We would again like to hold some of those cards. But with this ideology, there's a person, and I had only heard these stories, right? That you get up at 6, 4 in the morning, helping your father who had to stand 12 hours on the street making chart, you have to take care. The person could not undertake certain education because he thought of course he's a rank holder chart, but the reason he chose CA over something else because he thought it's the most cost effective way. Now you hear some of these stories. Now, just 2 days back, I was listening to Thyrocare founder, and there are many more. Alak, physics wala, we know so many of them.
Yeah.
But what brings us is this. Now, we knew the gap in the market. We knew what potentially the market is seeking. Not that other friends are not doing it, but we thought, can we try to bring a little more element to it? So when there was a business case, what we were not too sure why we are the ones who should do it. And that's where purpose came. I talked about him. For me personally, as you know, I have a sight challenge and an auditory challenge. I do not see from one eye. I see around 15% from the other. I have the poor periphery, and there's a constant glare in front of me. I do not hear on one ear. I hear around 80% on my right. Post doing my degree in economics from St. Stephen's at Delhi School of Economics, I got an opportunity to work with one of the now leading Indian private sector banks, spent 17 years there. I'm clearly an outcome of 3 very phenomenal women in my life. My grandmother, my mother, and now my wife, who is the pillar of strength. I spent almost 8 years of my childhood at the hospital in an era and time when computers were building up and I had no access to accessibility. I come from a fairly well-to-do family, so I don't think resources were a challenge to me, but a lot of awareness was not available to us. But what I got exposed to in those foundational years were, my grandmother used to recite a lot of Bhagavad Gita to me. Now, Now, not putting any religious colors, because each of these texts or spiritual texts give you a way to life. Now, what that did to me, it pumped in or fueled in inert optimism in my way of thinking. And then there was this mother who will ensure that you will stand the tough times. There were almost 4 times when I was about to cross to the other side, she pulled me back. I was determined to keep me here. Then of course I met my phenomenal life partner, who is the um, biggest strength and behind me. In this 17 years of phenomenal career at Axis, did I face negative biases? See, any entity is a combination of people. But clearly having a celebrated career and today with all humbleness and maybe dropping some modesty off, I think you'll always find those few people, those few managers, those few peers, and what you need to focus on that. Essentially, what I'm saying is glass half full. We all can see and talk about and rant about the challenges. It's just about those few people. My oldest friend, we were what? We've been now together for what, 27 years? What a simple gesture, right? A boy who is struggling to go to the stationery toy shop to pull out some pencils, and this boy run and say, "Well, I'm there." And several more such friends. In fact, I wrote a blog on friendship data. But the whole idea is you see and find these friends in an organization. I in my last role I was the head of sponsors coverage, worked across equity markets, across friends, and I think the only thing we did was building non-transaction relationships. What I faced, yes, we saw different faces of the world. But I think was it on account of disability? Probably partially. Was it curated? Maybe I'll go too far. Do people get overprotective? Maybe in their wisdom they do. Do they have certain barriers in their thought? Absolutely. Our perceptions become the biggest barriers to wisdom. And I think my case was no different. But having worked in London, given an opportunity to be there, to be the head of wholesale bank, I think there was a constant responsibility that I was also shouldering, that I am accountable to the stakeholders. And when I am putting an Excel out, there cannot be a question on that. I have to put my best foot. I have to put my best foot forward. Do not let anybody ever question your lapses or your mediocrity at the back of your challenge. That is my challenge. I need to own it. I need to deliver to it. Let somebody never get an opportunity to say, you used this to justify mediocrity. And I think once we all learn to understand this, I, in fact, often end up talking to a lot of people in the ecosystem, and I tell them, let's stop asking about subsidies. Well, they're required to a point. But why don't we talk about an ecosystem where we all could be taxpayers? I think we love to be the highest taxpaying community. And if we are able to bring those shifts in our mindset, a lot of, and I'm so glad, see, the way we turn this conversation is first as an investor, as a banker, and then as a person. Because at first, nobody should why should anybody put money at my back because of my medical situation? They need to put that at the back of my credentials and what I'm capable of. And we see that. Yes, there are times when you are put in those frames of superheroes, superhumans, and you tell them, well, great, you got motivated, you got excited, but love the thesis more than what we are doing. And if you like it, just commit some capital. Be a part of this journey. And we are not CSR. We believe that we can play a pivotal role. We want to deliver a delta to our investors, at the same time an alpha experience to our founders. And how we are going to deliver, well, that's something which is going to unfold. Probably a secret sauce, not too secret.
Probably a secret sauce. But tell me one thing, Rahul, this entire philosophy, I wanted to talk to you about this, that what gives right to one human being to even call the other human being to use these words like disabled? It's a victim language, right? It's we are putting somebody in the position of being a victim. And and how can one human being, he or she, really feel that empowered to even look at the other person like that? Isn't that a fundamental flaw in having this, in seeing perfect bodies and perfect people? What is this obsession with perfectionism that we have? Don't you think it's about time that we come, that as mature individuals, a mature society, and as a mature culture, that we're not blinded by these anymore? What do you think?
My God, such a heavy question, and perhaps all elements of Bhagavad Gita and Maya should come into play. But I think just before we started this, you and I were having a separate conversation. At the end of the day, see, we're all souls, and I think somewhere everybody has had experiences. If you go by some of the texts, probably at some point the world was matriarchy, but the way it turned patriarchy was is scary, right? Is extremely scary. But again, we were just talking that the way we want to bring, let's say, gender balance, because the largest diversity pool that you will see today is women. If men and women potentially are 50-50 globally, right? So it's the first balance to be solved. But again, I think we had a very interesting conversation when we met at the Rising Equality Summit. We need to start thinking of each other as allies. If you caricature a privileged person, what will be the characteristics? The characteristics are heterosexual, well educated, privileged background, medically able, biologically able. Now bring this into different conversations in a Western economy. You will bring color in certain regions. You will try to bring out the religious angle.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, let's say from Indian context, if this is the identity, we want Shrija as a female to be empowered. We want Rahul Gupta as a person with disability to be empowered. We want our elderlies to be empowered. We want our friends who are queer to be empowered. But at the same time,
Yeah.
while doing all this, we end up putting these perceived privileged at the verge of threat. I think we'll end up creating very wrong. Now, again, I'm not going to deep philosophy because this will become a Bhagavad Gita session. But the whole point is that we if you want to be allies, if a person with disability want to feel equal, but at the same time, we as a community, we have to stop some of these people who would want to exploit the ecosystem on the names of mediocrity. How can you blame an organization or a society if somebody just doesn't want to take accountability of their own actions?
True.
And what hurts me the most, I think a lot of us end up chasing very short-term goals. Mera naam isme kahan pe aayega? Now, right, and again, and probably the last stanza of this philosophy, I'll not go deep there, but we are just talking, how many of us know our lineage 5 generations back, and you expect your name to be remembered forever? Well, I think it's important to be extremely human first. And if you are able to do that, we are able to take collective responsibilities and accountabilities, we'll end up seeing a much better world, much evolved world. And that's where, when we write about ValuAble, when we talk about ValuAble, we are not doing any false promises to ourselves. We are saying this is going to take us nothing less than 3 decades, 4 decades. Probably, if we can get this wheel moving eventually at some point, we'll be very happy getting into our careers. Out of the first 100 companies, what we are thinking at our back of our head, if you are able to create even 5% of the companies, they will open the path for the next 20, which will then open the path for the next 500, and then the world will keep exploding.
Okay, thanks for that, Rahul. Thanks for that interesting discussion. I think we spoke about quite a few things, really got to know about your fund, your philosophy, and Rahul Gupta as a person. That was very, very important to understand what you think about, what you stand for, and how you're feeding that philosophy into that fund. Thank you so much, Rahul, for joining in, and I wish you all the best for your fundraising. Very soon, I hope you'll get the message about your first close very soon, and some of the interesting things you're doing in partnership with the bank and so on. Until the time I see you next, goodbye and good luck. Thank you.
It is my utmost pleasure, Shrija, to be a part of this phenomenal conversation. I just felt very casual talking to a friend. So thank you. And I did took some liberties to keep it very casual. May not be something very used to the capitalist audience, but yes, let them enjoy some philosophical flavor. That's we call ourselves the Purpose-Led Fund. It was lovely to be a part of the Rising Equality Forum. Thank you for giving me those opportunities. Look forward to be your ally for a long term.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rahul. Thank you so much. Thank you. And wish you good luck. Thanks. Bye bye.